Good afternoon and welcome, dear friends, to this amazing moment, sharing together here with you this amazing afternoon through the web still, hanging tight in our social distance. Soon, hopefully, we will be getting together more warmly and physically with one another. But for the time being, we share this amazing moment and we're still happy, courageous enough to continue our work and give continuation, or not only giving continuation, starting this amazing month of October 2020. Tonight, this afternoon into this evening, we'll have our dear friend Jussara Korngold with us, sharing some amazing ideas with us. Before we pass the word to her, and before we do anything, let us read a passage of the book Happy Life, by the Spirit Joana de Angelis through the hands of the medium Divaldo Pereira Franco. This is chapter 7, where Joana de Angelis says the following: "Do not be too ambitious. Do not let your reach exceed your grasp," tells a popular saying. "Exaggerated ambition ends when it does not make unhappy before. Fight for what is necessary, sharing what you do not need, which is certainly needed by others." This way, we would like to invite everyone to pray and ask our dear Creator for the best of all of us. You may close your eyes and share this moment with one another through our minds, through our hearts, thanking our dear Creator for this amazing moment, for the opportunity to have one another, for the opportunity to share our ideas and our feelings. Despite the distance, we are together. We ask you, dear Lord, that you guide our minds, our hearts, the minds of our dear friend Jussara Korngold tonight, and everyone who will be reached as we share this moment now and in the future as well, so that the topics, the ideas, the ideals can serve as foundations, strong foundations in our lives, building a new beginning, a new structure for all of us. We also ask for all of those who are going through difficult transitions, difficult moments, and pray for all of those who are hospitalized, in difficult situations, where they can find, through this talk, through this harmonious moment, guidance and love. May our Master Jesus be with us through this moment and for the rest of our lives. And so be it. So as we were saying, starting this amazing month of October, we have our dear friend Jussara Korngold here with us, in sharing a topic very dear to all of us, right? Talking about Kardec. Today, for many of you who already know, it is the birthday of Allan Kardec, who was born on October the 3rd, 1804. And why not talk about this man? But before I'll pass the word to her, I would like to formally introduce our dear friend Jussara Korngold, who is currently the General Secretary of the International Spiritist Council, the President of the United States Spirit Federation, and Executive Director of the Tri-State Spiritist Federation. She is the founder and president of the Spirits Group of New York and the Spirits Alliance for Books. Ms. Korngold is fluent in Portuguese, English, French, and Spanish. She is a published author and a translator with a bachelor's in economics and post-graduation in finances. Ms. Korngold works for Brazil Child Health as its main executive. She is also an executive board member of the Grupo Mulheres do Brasil, or Women Group of Brazil in New York. With all of this, we also like to remind everyone that she is a friend. She is an individual just like us, going through the difficulties, the amazing moments of life, a wife, a mother, and a great friend great support, especially when it comes down to the dissemination of Spiritism here in the U.S. and all over the world as well. So, with no further ado, I would like to pass the word and welcome Jussara to this amazing moment here with us. And thanks for taking the moment from your life, from your family, to share this moment with us, talking about Kardec, the man, the Spiritist. Go ahead.
Thank you, Leonardo. Thank you, Spiritist Society of Baltimore. We have been developing our work together for quite some time, and it's been always a pleasure. And I'm very grateful that you have chose this special date to invite me and to give me the opportunity to talk to you. I'm very always. I feel very touched when I have to talk about Kardec. I don't know, not only because of everything that he has done, but I have a great admiration for the man, for the Spiritist, for everything that he has accomplished. And I think that sometimes we don't talk that much about him, about the difficulties that he had to face in order to bring to light Spiritism, and that's the reason why we have decided to talk about him today. As some of us know, and for all of those that are following us now and that are going to be watching this later, because this is always a possibility. This is one of the advantages that we have with this virtual world. Kardec was considered to be a scholar. He was involved in many societies of his time. He was a member of the Science Academy of France. He was a pedagogue. He wrote several books besides the books of the related to Spiritism. So he was a man that was a very well renowned person at his time. Very loving person, very dedicated, and very dedicated to his wife as well, Amélie Gabrielle Baudet. And everything started when he was invited several times to join and to attend a seance where he found out about the turning tables. Of course, being a man with his intellect, his ability to reason, he couldn't accept that the tables were communicating, and he started to dig further in order to receive more information about or to understand what was behind all that. With this, Kardec was given 50 notebooks that was already the result of many seances and communications from spirit for him to analyze. And the thing is, when he started doing that, when he started dedicating himself to that, of course, with the seriousness of a person like Kardec, an evolved spirit such as himself, people started relying on him very much and giving to him all the responsibility to come about all the information, perhaps to try to convince others, to convince the people of his time as well. And because of that, they started calling him, telling him that he was kind of a missionary, that it was to him that it was assigned this idea of continuing or contributing for to put a body of knowledge together. And Kardec was not very comfortable with that. He was not very comfortable with that because he was above all a very responsible person. Very responsible, very committed, and he couldn't accept that to him would be attributed some, such a mission that he didn't consider himself to be able to fulfill. But all the Spiritists at this time, we would not call them Spiritists, but let's say the researchers of Spiritism, the ones that attended the meetings with Kardec, started pushing him to to go further, to commit more, to take all the responsibility, to put all of they wanted to put all of that on his shoulder. And it's not that he was refusing it because he didn't want to embrace the work, and we know quite well how much he embraced the work, but because he really thought that he was not worthy of such a great task, such a great mission. Okay, and so there is one communication that we have in the book, Posthumous Work, that describes one of the seances that were happened even in 1856, the year before, of course, the release of the Spirit's book, where he had the possibility of communicating with the Spirit of Truth. For those who are not familiar, the Spirit of Truth is considered by Spiritists as being Jesus himself, because he is the Spirit that is behind all this work of love and enlightenment, of bringing spiritual knowledge, of taking us closer to God, the governor of our planet, according to the Spirit Emmanuel. So, and the interesting thing that we learn about this communication is that this Spirit, upon communicating, told Allan Kardec that for 15 minutes a month he would come to help to enlighten him in whatever was necessary. This leads us to think, to ponder a lot, because especially mediums, sometimes we have the tendency of thinking that whenever we want to communicate with a spirit, the spirit has to be available to communicate with us. And in this case, we are talking about putting together a body of knowledge that was of the utmost importance for humanity, under the banner of Christ himself, and he only comes 15 minutes a month to talk to Kardec. We understand that those, the spirit, a pure spirit like Jesus, when they talk for 15 minutes, we have more than a year or years to understand and to ponder about his words. As an example, we could think about, the Gospel according to Spiritism. At one of the first pages, there is a message from the Spirit of Truth. And when we analyze that message, is a very short message, less than one page. There is so much knowledge, so much teaching for us, so many things for us to think about. So this was the situation that we see Kardec involved. So on one side, he was not refusing to continue with his research, to help in whatever was necessary. On the other side, he was very concerned about everything, all this responsibility that people were putting on his shoulder, and saying that, he was the person to do that, and knowledgeable, of course, of his own imperfections and weaknesses. So when he had this opportunity in 1856 of talking to the Spirit of Truth through a medium that is called a lean, he established a communication with the Spirit that is going to bring to us a lot of enlightenment. One thing that is very important for us to mention here is that whatever we are going to be talking about Kardec and about his conversation, his dialogue with the Spirit of Truth can apply to us as well today. And we are going to be mentioning that as we go with our presentation. So the first thing that happens is when the Spirit of Truth comes and he starts talking to this Spirit, Kardec starts by saying, "Goodly Spirit, I would like to know what you think about the mission designated to me by a number of other spirits. Tell me, I ask you, if it was to test my pride. And the answer, I can confirm what you were told, but I suggest that you be very discreet if you want to succeed. So first thing here, not only the incarnates were putting everything on Kardec's shoulder, but even the spirits that were communicating. And of course, the spirits, they were working together. They were working along with Kardec. They knew more. They understood more about what was in store in terms of not only Spiritism, but Kardec as well, and his important role in all of this. So the spirits were already talking to Kardec, giving communication through other mediums and saying, well, you are assigned to do this, you are assigned to do that. But Kardec here is telling us, is teaching us a very important lesson. Even if I trust the spirit, even if I know the source, I really have to be absolutely sure that this is the case, that this is what it really is assigned to me. In this case, was the question of Kardec. So only after he talked to the Spirit of Truth, he would be convinced and understand what was the commitment that he had to fulfill, to engage himself. So the Spirit of Truth tells him, I can confirm what you were told. So he was giving Kardec the certainty that this was so, that it was up to him to continue and to do this work. But he mentioned something very important. You have to be discreet. It's not that, when you are assigned an important task, an important mission, you just go about in the world and you start screaming to everyone, oh, listen, look at how wonderful I am, look at what I do, or what is it assigned for me to do? Because let's see what the Spirit tells him here, Kardec. Don't forget that you can succeed just as you can fail. In the latter case, someone else will replace you, because God's designs do not rest on the head of one person only. Never talk about your mission. That would be the way to make it fail. So here he's saying, yes, we are counting on you to fulfill your commitment and to do what you were supposed to do. But you are a human being, and you still can fail. But don't worry, because if you fail, what is important is the mission. What is important is what has to be accomplished. We'll have someone else that will do what you have failed to do. So don't talk about your mission, because this would be a way to fail. See how important it is what the Spirit of Truth is telling Kardec now? In terms of understanding that even if he was the one assigned to do something, if by any chance he wouldn't be able to do it, there would be somebody else to do it. Because this is the work that we always say belongs to God, belongs to the creation. We are just always invited to be co-participants in all of this. And Kardec was the same. So the Spirit of Truth says that the mission only, this is I don't know which way is it in Spanish here. Let me see if I'll translate. So the mission only can be legitimate when we have the work completed. And at the moment, he had not completed yet. He has not accomplished anything. If he will accomplish it, at the right time, sooner or later, people will recognize him, because it is due to the fruits that one can recognize the quality of the tree. So here, the Spirit of Truth is saying, what is the point of you talking about a mission that you have not basically you haven't done anything yet to say to anyone that you are doing or you are fulfilling a mission? And don't worry about that too much because, even understand human nature, Jesus, or the Spirit of Truth in this case, would know that not necessarily even dedicating himself completely, that he would be recognized and accepted. As we know well, didn't happen that much during his time. But sooner or later, we will always know and we will always recognize the tree by its fruits. And then he says, okay, Kardec asks the Spirit of Truth, I would ask for your assistance and that of the good spirits to aid me and uphold me in my task. And the answer is, you will not lack our assistance, but it will be useless if you don't do what is necessary on your part. You have your free will. It is up to you to use it as you wish. No one is unavoidably forced to do anything. So after hearing the Spirit of Truth and pondering about everything that the Spirit of Truth was saying, Kardec already kind of accepted that he was was really assigned this mission of putting together, what we would know later to become a Spiritist, because at this point we can even say that Kardec was thinking about it. And then what does he do? He says, okay, but I do request, I ask for your assistance, the assistance of the good spirits, so that I can be up to the task. So immediately, what at first led Kardec to go into this dialogue with the Spirit of Truth, thinking that he was not worthy, knowing that he had so much, deficiencies still, that there was so much to be accomplished, that about, the relation with the doctrine. And then the Spirit of Truth says, you will never lack our assistance. But it will be useless if you don't do what is necessary on our part. You have your free will. So it's the same with us. You see, many times we pray to God, we pray to Jesus, to the good spirits, asking for assistance, asking for guidance. But when assistance comes, when guidance comes, what do? Many times we turn our deaf ears to that, to everyone that is placed on our way, as an instrument of the good spirits, the benevolent spirits, to help and to guide us. So let's say we have a decision to make. I'll take route A or B. And then we pray, and then a person comes and say, you know what, I was thinking about your question. I would say that perhaps you should go to A. I don't know, A can be too long. Somebody else comes and says, oh, I was thinking maybe A is going to be more interesting. Yeah, but it can be a boring scenery. We start making excuses, and then we decide to go through, the B instead of A. But and it winds up not being a very good choice. And then we blame the spirits because they did not help us. I mean, they were there trying to, through other people, give us advice, give us, a better path for us to track. And then we refuse. And it's what we do until today. So when we are praying for the good spirits to assist us, we have to be willing for them to assist us. We have to offer them the vibrational condition so that they can connect with us. Otherwise, they will not find any kind of attunement to be helping and assisting us. That's why we have this teaching for Jesus, from Jesus, that says, help yourselves and heaven will help you. Because we have to do something. We have to move in the direction of opening our channels in order to be assisted. And here, even considering that we are talking about Kardec, a spirit, a high order spirit, with the mission he had to accomplish, is still the Spirit of Truth says, you have your free will. We will assist you, but everything will depend on you. We cannot force anything on you. And then he asks, but what could cause me to fail? The insufficiency of my abilities? And the Spirit of Truth says, no. So Kardec had everything that he needed to have in order to fulfill his task, his mission. And the Spirit of Truth continues on saying, but the mission of a reformer is rough, with pitfalls and perils. I must warn you that yours will be hard, because it is meant to stir and transform the entire world. Don't think that will be enough just to publish 1, 2, or 10 books and then rest peacefully at home. Well, here, the Spirit of Truth starts by saying, we wouldn't be assigning such an important mission if we didn't think you had what was necessary to fulfill it. But we do understand that as an individuality, having a free will, and of course presenting weaknesses, as all of us that are not pure spirit will have, there will be a possibility that you may not be able to fulfill it the way we were expecting. But other than that, do not forget, keep always in mind that every time someone is coming in order to transform the entire world, this is what a Spiritism is. Your mission is to steer and transform the entire world. This is a Spiritism. And it was on the hands of Kardec to do that. Would we think that this would be a very easy task, a very easy mission to be accomplished? Of course not. And we know how much it was difficult and hard for Kardec to do it, how much criticism he went through. And then he even goes and say, and don't think that whatever you do, because, in other words, of the Spirit of Truth is trying to say here, when he's numbering, published 1, 2, or 10 books, it's not the numbers per se. It's not, he was telling Kardec not to conform, not to rest and stay in a comfort zone after doing a few things. And sometimes this happens with us as well. Sometimes we hear people saying, oh my God, like, today we are living in the virtual world. We can say, oh my God, today I heard already 2 talks that were giving in different parts of the world, or even in your country, whatever, as if it was, enough, or you were doing too much, or, oh, I already go 2 times a week at the Spiritist Center. Okay, let's say you go 2 times a week at the Spiritist Center. It means what? 4 hours, 6 hours of a whole week that you are dedicating to spiritual values? Do you think this is enough? Do you think you can bargain with God? Because this is what the Spirit of Truth is telling here. When we understand that planet Earth is a very precious possibility for us as immortal spirit to accomplish our spiritual improvement, we have to understand that this is not a place where we come on vacation. No, it's hard work, because we want to change. We want to learn other things. And this is what the Spirit of Truth is trying to say here. And then he goes on to talking to Kardec, to saying that you will have to make sacrifices. You will arouse terrible hatred against you. You will be the target of malevolence, slander, and even betrayal by those who will seem the most devoted to you. Your finest teachings will be misjudged and falsified. More than once, you will succumb under the weight of fatigue. In some, you will have to endure an almost constant struggle, as well as the sacrifice of your repose, your tranquility, your health, and even your life, since you, without all that, you would live much longer. Can you imagine yourself, the Spirit of Truth, coming to you and telling to you what he had just told to Kardec? All the challenges, everything that was going to be thrown at him, being betrayed, being the object of malevolence, betrayed by those that were closest to him, having everything or things that he had put so much of himself to research and to bring up to light the truth, that people would go and do and make it different and falsified, as it says here. And on top of all of this, it says you are going to compromise your repose, you are going to compromise your tranquility, your health, and you would even live longer if it were not for all of this. I guess many of us would say, you know what? I'm not so sure I'm ready to do that in this lifetime. Please, Father, put this chalice away. That is something that we have to think about it. That's why, according to what we are doing, according to our possibilities, we were not assigned great missions, but whatever came to us to do, we have to be sure that it's because it is within our reach to do it. But it doesn't mean that it's not going to require sacrifice from us. Resilience, perseverance. That's what happened with Kardec. And then the Spirit of Truth continues by saying, for such missions, intelligence is not enough. First of all, to please God, one needs humility, modesty, and detachment, courage, perseverance, and unshakable firmness. Prudence and tact are also needed to conduct things appropriately and not compromise their success by intemperate words of measures. In sum, devotion, selflessness, and readiness for every sacrifice is necessary. As you can see, your mission is subordinate to conditions that depend on yourself. Poor Kardec, right? Because, here the Spirit of Truth starts by saying, if you are thinking that because of all your intellectual abilities, which we know that Kardec really was a great mind, that you were chosen, you're wrong. Of course, intelligence is important, but it's not enough. Because in order for you to be able to deal with all the rest, if you don't have moral values, the values of the soul, you are going to succumb. To be able to be humble, to have courage when he was going to be attacked, perseverance when he thought that everyone was just criticizing him, that nothing was going to continue, that he would not have people that would embrace the mission with the same love and dedication that he did. To have this devotion, to understand that he would be able and willing to make every sacrifice possible so that goodness could prevail and could come and steer and transform the whole world. That was what was presented to Kardec. And then after hearing all of this, understanding the depth of all of this, Kardec replies to the Spirit of Truth by saying, "Truth, thank you for your wise counsels. I accept everything without restriction and without preconceived ideas." And then Kardec says a prayer that is such a beautiful prayer. And we are very grateful that he put that into paper, because we can read it today and feel the emotion, the devotion, how much the codifier of Allan Kardec, the codifier of Spiritism, understood the importance of what was assigned to him. And then he says, "O Lord, if you deign to sit your eyes on me for the fulfillment of your designs, may your will be done. My life is in your hands. As your servant, I am at your disposal. I acknowledge my weakness before such a great endeavor. My goodwill will not fail, but perhaps my strength will give out. Supplement my deficiencies. Give me the physical and mental strength I will need. Sustain me in the difficult moments, and with your aid and the help of your heavenly messengers, I will use every effort to comply with your designs." That was the moment of the road to Damascus of Kardec. Up to that point, Kardec was more like the researcher, being this intellectual mind and trying to understand everything, what was behind everything, going through the communicating with one another, spirit, hearing about his mission, hearing about what the purpose he had to fulfill. But that moment where he comes, let me use face to face with Jesus, being enlightened by Jesus. And I imagine, I keep on thinking here at the same time, that even though when we talk about Paul of Tarsus, we know that the dialogue, at least the one that we have in 2 words between Paul and Jesus, was very short, like, "Paul, Paul," or "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" But the conversation, spirit to spirit, the impact it made on Paul is the same impact that we see here in Kardec. When Paul looks at Jesus and says, "Master, what do you want me to do?" And here Kardec saying, "My life is in your hands." So that is such a divine moment. And that from that point on, when he had this encounter with Jesus, it was when Kardec was able to produce everything that he did. And what he was able to do in 14 years of life, it's extraordinary. And we don't think about that too much, and about what Kardec really means to all of us, and about the importance of Kardec in all that, and how grandiose he truly is. Because in order for him to be able to put all of this together, a body of knowledge for us, to guide humanity, to stir and transform humanity. He was one of the spirits that worked directly with Jesus and that were working for the codification to take place. And then Kardec himself says that he writes a remark on January 1st, 1867. Remember that this was 10 years and a half after he received the communication from the Spirit of Truth. And he attests that everything that happened was true, that he experienced all the vicissitudes that were announced to him. That he was the target of hatred, obstinate enemies of offense, slander, envy, and jealousy. My best teachings have been distorted. I have been betrayed by those I trusted and paid with ingratitude by those whom I rendered service. I have never had a moment of repose. I have succumbed to excessive work. My health has been shaken and my life compromised. But even so, along with these vicissitudes, how much happiness I felt as seeing the work grow so prodigiously. With what sweet compensation have my tribulations been paid for? What blessings, what proofs of real sympathy I have received from so many afflicted whom the doctrine has consoled. This result was not mentioned to me by the Spirit Truth, who, without a doubt, and intentionally pointed out only the difficulties of the way. Thus, how ungrateful I would be if I complained. This is the result of a very superior mind, a superior heart, a superior spirit. Understanding that there is always sacrifice, and here we use sacrifice with the true meaning of the word, a sacred work. That's what sacrifice means. That Kardec gave himself, gave his hours, his health, his life, because he knew that would transform the world. And he could be witness of that during the years that he dedicated to Spiritism. How many lives it was able to save, how many people it was able to remove from the dark veils of ignorance, from madness, because they were experiencing the influence of spirits believing that they were mad. All the things that Kardec could witness at his time. And we feel happy when we hear our codifier saying that, because we know that it was not only torn that he had to experience along the way, but that he had the sympathy of so many people, the gratitude of so many people during his time. And I'm sure that today, following the growth of the Spiritist movement, he is happy in seeing how many of us it has saved, how many of us it has enlightened, how many of us it has removed from wrongdoings and brought us to righteousness. So this is so important when we think about what we are doing, because we can do the same within our community. This is what we were asked to do. This is what we were invited to do. With the little knowledge, the little possibilities that we have as still being a spirit of the third order, we can do something. We are living such a difficult time. There are so many people suffering right now for so many different reasons as a consequence of the pandemic, but so many different reasons. And we cannot just stay comfortably at our home without doing anything, without reaching out, without spreading words of hope and reminding them that, yes, we are facing difficult times, but this shall pass. This shall also pass. As we all have gone through so much. This is what it is expected from us as Spiritists. Not that we just be using the words, but most of all, that we use our hearts, that we give from ourselves, that we talk with with true love in our words. Because this is the only thing that is going to impact people. It's not just words, cold words, even if they are uttered in the most eloquent way. And this is what Kardec was doing at his time, using his possibilities to bring all of this to us. And he had to endure so much. And here's what he tells us. Whenever confronted with a disappointment or an annoyance, I would lift my thought above humanity and put myself in advance in the spirit realm. And from that high point, from where I could see my end point, the miseries of life slide right over me without affecting me. A noble spirit as Kardec, he can do it easily. To us, it's still not so easy to do that. But here we have a lesson. Here we have an example. If we ourselves as well, instead of just putting pride first, if someone offends us, if someone hurts us, and we want to get into a confrontation, or we get disappointed, if we just could think about, there's so much more to eternal life than this. Is this really worthy of my time, of my sadness, of my frustration? Or should I just think it's part of life? It's part of us still being in this third category of spirit? But we are all going to progress, and things are going to change. And whoever does not accept us today, does not understand us today, sooner or later, like the Spirit of Truth told Kardec, by the fruits, people will recognize the efforts we are doing. Yes, we have a long road to go, but we have to start. And this is what Spiritism is giving us, the opportunity to start. And with that, with those thoughts, always, making a remark that everything that we talked about here, all this communication of Kardec, that the Spirit of Truth gave to Kardec, it applies to us today as well. There was a point that we were invited to serve Jesus, that we were given the explanation that it wouldn't be easy for us, that we would have to face many challenges, being the first one to deal with our own imperfections, but that we would never be alone and without support if we allow ourselves to be assisted by the good spirits, because this is a work that is bigger than we are. And that represents a lot, because it represents us being free from ignorance, from suffering, from everything that prevents us to feel truly within ourselves that we are children of God. So for that, we thank you, Kardec, and thank everyone that is watching us. The man no longer exists, but Allan Kardec is immortal. His memory, his work, and his spirit will always be with those that carry in a firm and elevated manner the flag that he always revered. And we also would like to tell you that in order to pay homage to Kardec, in the next few days we are going to be releasing the Spiritist Review Special American Edition with articles that are present in the collection of the Spiritist Review by Allan Kardec, years 1858 to 1864, the articles that Kardec mentions and talks about the spiritual movement here in the US. So keep on checking our website for news when it is going to be available. Okay, and thank you so much for your attention.
Amazing, Jussara. Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge with us, this amazing life with us, and giving us the encouragement to continue in our lives, right? We talked about so many things that I have a couple questions that I would like to make myself and propose. But before we do that, I would like to say hello to everyone who is really sharing this moment with us right now. I'm not going to go through every hellos as usually by saying and acknowledge every person. From our heart, we say hello to you, we welcome you, and I would like to go straight into the questions and the comments that we have, so that way we can even further the discussion, this amazing talk that we have here with you, Jussara. So we would like to share the first question that Daniel actually brought for us. With all the work done by Kardec 160 years ago, 63 years ago, excuse me, do you think the Spiritist message has progressed to a point that would be expected by him, in this case, Kardec?
Well, I think, that the noble spirits, they know more about ourselves than we do, right? And about our possibilities. Again, there is always this point that even the Spirit of Truth told to Kardec, you have the possibilities, you have the intelligence, you have even, the moral ascendancy, otherwise he wouldn't have been invited to do what he did. But when we come back to Earth and when we have to fulfill our tasks, is a different thing, right? So I would say that the most important thing that we can see from this perspective is that the Spiritist movement is growing, and the Spiritism is growing. And as once Divaldo told me, it's not a matter of numbers, it's a matter of quality of whatever we are doing in order to assure that the quality is going to continue. So I would say Kardec is happy, and he knows that we are doing our effort, our part to fulfill, the little tasks that were assigned to us. Could we have, could we move fast? Always. I think always we can move fast, but at least if we are not delaying, if you're not putting a halt in our progress, it is already good enough. So let's just keep up the good work. Let us not lose sight of what we are here to do. And especially today that we think even more about Kardec, let us make a personal commitment to increase our efforts to make it a reality.
Thank you for sharing. And these are very encouraging as well, because we like to think so, right? We like to acknowledge that we are doing the little that we can, that we're on the right path, and that's very encouraging. Thank you. Kirsten shared with us, one second. Was there any particular thing about Kardec's life that stands out to you and remains an inspiration for all of us?
Oh, there are several, Kirsten, but there was one that recently came to mind. It was when I watched the movie Kardak by Wagner Assisi that I like it so much. I watched it a few times already. And every time I watch it, tears comes to my eyes, is when I saw the amount of correspondence that Kardec received. And there are so many things for us to talk about it. And I don't know if you saw in the movie, the correspondence was piling up with there were so many. And the thing is, Kardec read each one of them, and he replied to those messages, and he used those messages, or he replied them collective on the Spiritist Review, the 12 years of the Spiritist Review. And we normally pay so little attention to those volumes that now we already have 5 of them translated and published into English, and we're going to have the 6th one soon also published, is already translated and in the final stages of review, editing, and we don't pay that much attention. And I mean, and he made so much sacrifice. It was not in the time of computers and digital era. He had to write and reply with that ink and pen. It's so I when I think about that, about the love that he, and the respect that he felt for each one of them that wrote to him, opening up their hearts, telling their experiences, asking for assistance. This is something that touches me so much, so much.
Thank you, Jussara. And you just, as you said, right, at a time where computer wasn't even there, you had to write with ink pen, that old ink pen, and write letters and send it to the post office. All the struggles, and then this question also reminds me, and I thank you, Kirsten, for really asking this question, and your answer as well, is because it shows to us that the difficulties of life were being shared by many individuals, right? The incessant feeling, desire to find comfort with the Spiritist science and the men, it was there already, just like we are today, trying to find ourselves identify ourselves with this amazing science. So it is a great reminder. So thank you for that. Next, we'll have a question by Paula, and she's asking, did Kardec discuss his mission of reformer with his wife, and did she receive spirit messages about this?
We don't have any so far. We don't have any information whether she received messages about this, but I'm sure she knew it. And I mean, Amélie Gabrielle, we don't talk about her that much, but that was a woman that was really working alongside with Kardec all the time. If it was not from her, I don't think Kardec would be able to do or to accomplish what he did. She was the one that was receiving the correspondence, many of them. She would be the one, separating by subject so that Kardec could address each one of them, and knowing, I mean, this is the pile where people are talking about mediumistic experience. This is the pile where people are asking for prayers and knowledge. This is the pile of people that are, making attacks as well. So she was with him all the way, and even she was the one participating in the seances. So I'm sure that she was there there also when there was this message from the Spirit of Truth, because she would accompany him in all of the seances, and she witnesses this message along with the other ones. But she was a fantastic person, not only while he was alive, but after his passing as well, in terms of trying to preserve as much as she could. I mean, we have to understand that she was a woman from the 19th century, and she couldn't do much because of that. An older woman at that point, when Kardec died, she was already almost 80 years old, and so but she did her everything to help him to fulfill his mission. And I'm sure she's one of those noble spirits that we don't talk that much, but it's the one that gives us support to go on.
Thank you. I would like to read a couple messages here before we go to Yasko's, because this message is this comment is actually, it serves as an encouragement for all of us to continue in our work. And what you brought as well is encouragement to many people, Jussara, bringing this topic and bringing Kardec, the struggle that Kardec went through his time. This is a comment by Irasema when she says, "Thank you, Jussara, for this fantastic talk. To talk about Allan Kardec to me is to make sure that I am on the right path that God has prepared for me. Lots of light for you today and always." It is true, because the struggle that he went through, we also have a struggle, not on the same level, but it keeps us in our position in terms of really continue with the difficulties that we have in our lives. And then Antonia also said, it reminds me what Jesus went through, just because he was not understood. Not surprised that Kardec underwent such hardships trying to take the Spiritist teachings to people in the 1800s, when talking about communication with spirit was basically impossible in those times. Encouragement to all of us, so thank you for that. And then I would like to move on to Yasko's question. Hearing all the difficulties, misunderstanding, betrayals he suffered from enemies and also from friends, quote unquote, inside of his own Spiritist society, what parallel you can draw with the Spiritist movement today? Easier today, as the seed in the tree he planted was strong, healthy enough to flourish after transplanted to Brazil?
Well, the thing here is, sometimes we all go, through struggles, through all these situations that Kardec had to go through. But depending on our moral strength, we are able to cope with that more or less. And of course, although we are not saying here that it was easy for Kardec or Jesus, because of their moral stature, one being at least a superior spirit, the other one being a pure spirit. Of course, they felt sadness and hurt. But when it comes to us, because we do not have this moral strength yet, it's very hard. It's very, very difficult. And this is something that, because of human nature, we still experience today. People that misunderstand us, that for whatever reason that may be found in the present or in the past, dislike us, or because of what we do, what we represent, and I think that's why it's very important for us to talk about this, and particularly because I like to talk about this specifically in relation to Allan Kardec as well, because we all go through that. We all go through those struggles, through those misunderstandings. And the thing is, what are the lessons that we have to learn from them? If they are, Jesus is our guide and model, and Kardec with his examples as well, that we have to continue. We cannot give up. And this is one thing that, we may fail, and we do not want to do that. We do not want to delay our progress even more. I mean, we have arrived until this point. We are here on a Saturday afternoon. I don't know how it is there in Baltimore, but here in New York, it's a beautiful day today. Probably one of the last beautiful days we will have to enjoy with still nice temperature. And we are here listening to that. We are here thinking about it. So we have come this far. So, okay, before, and I was just remembering now one story about Chico Xavier, that there comes this man that was one of, the directors of a Spiritist center. The story doesn't mention it quite well, or if it does, I forgot, I'm sorry. But he comes to Chico Xavier, complaining about everything that is going through in the Spiritist center. And of course, he's complaining about his colleagues and everything, the criticism and the endless discussions and point of views and how much people were misunderstanding him, and then he he said, he opened himself completely to Chico, just complaining about everything. And while he was doing that, the more he talked, the more Chico smiled, and after he finished, he looking at the body language from Chico, he said, and like, look at what is going on. And Chico looked at him and said, "Oh, my son, how blessed you are." And he said, "What are you talking about? Were you listening to what I just told you? I've been suffering so much persecution, criticism, misunderstanding. It has been hell to be able to do that. And you says that I'm a blessed person." "Yes, my son, because before you were the one causing all this trouble. Now you are just receiving it." So you see, this is the way those noble souls feel and see the world. We're not there yet, but we have to learn from them. So things are still difficult. Yes, they are still difficult, but it's up to us to keep on going and to help in the transformation, a heart each time.
Thank you, Jussara, for this example, right? Because we are being given now the opportunity to fix the things of the past, and many of us in the Spiritist movement, in the let's say in the different religions or in different encounters of our life, we come in contact with people thinking that we're being punished by God. It's quite the opposite. It's actually an opportunity, right, to fix the things that we were doing in the past, and we will come in contact with the difficulties of life to not only bear it, but also try to help fix it. Obviously, we're not going to impose anything on anyone, but it is exactly through these difficult moments that we are giving the opportunity to say, well, let's try another way. Because if we're here now together, it's for a reason. So thank you for this enlightenment. And again, just to clarify this with all of us out there, that it's not God punishing us, but it's just an opportunity to say it's a new day. And it is sunny here in Maryland too. It's amazing Saturday. And we have made this choice, and you have made this choice to be with us. So thank you for that as well. One final question here from the public, and then I would like to pose one question here for all of us here. Alba mentions, since Kardec reincarnated already with so many qualities, well-developed moral values, it's obvious he developed them in previous existence. Do you know of his previous existences?
Yes, but the one that they talk a lot about is where he was the Jan Hus. He was born in Prague, and there is even a movie that was done by the Czech Republic, I think, but it's a movie from 1956 that was recovered by Versatile Video. You can order and watch this movie. And of course it's from 1956, so you imagine the and produce it and made there in the Czech Republic. So it is not the cinematography that we have today, but if you only pay attention to the story that was told by them, there are no spiritists involved, you will see that, at least to me, when I watched the movie, I said, oh my God, Jan Hus was like St. Francis of Assisi, which also today we celebrate his return to the spiritual world. So you can see, and he talked about reason. It is so amazing. So this is one incarnation that we know for sure that he was present. Another one that we know for sure that he was present, it was that we can say, yes, was Allan Kardec, is the one that the spirit Zephyr himself disclosed to him at the time of the Druids, when at the time of Julius Caesar, where he lived in that community, and he was called Allan Kardec, and that's why he assumed this pen name, Allan Kardec, because it was one of the reincarnations. Other than that, there are some, they talk here and there, but we are not so sure. So I would prefer not mentioning anyone besides these two that we know for sure that was Kardec.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And we will share with you folks as well. We can send it over later on, the information about the movie. Thanks for reminding us about it. And I'm glad that she asked this question, because it's a follow up maybe to what she just asked. You talked about discretion, right? You talked about that the mission that shouldn't be disclosed because there was no fruits yet of this quote unquote mission that he brought here on Earth. There was no lack of a system that that he was able to receive this assistance from the spirit realm, and all the great things that you brought here. In this sense, I would like to ask this because sometimes we tend to separate who we are in society from who we are at home, or from what we are at home at the Spiritist Center from society, at our jobs and whatnot. How much, or can we, should we separate Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rival from Kardec personalities? Because he was not only Kardec, he had this whole help. He had his wife. He had other people. He had the people also who, quote unquote, brought some resistance to the whole thing, to the whole movement. But should we separate one man to the other? And this is in terms of the qualities, as well as the difficulties that he still had within himself. And I would like to bring this question to apply for ourselves. Should we be this person or that person? Or should we accept ourselves with our qualities and our difficulties as well?
Well, sometimes, there are people even that separates because he is called Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rival. They say that the little Léon, when he was, during his childhood, that he was, living in Lyon. Then, as a young person, that as Hippolyte, he goes to Yverdon in Switzerland, and this is another phase of him. And then he goes as Rivail, Professor Rivail, to Paris, where he worked in the education system. But you see, this is the same spirit. And although I'm sure many of his qualities and his potential could have been in a latent way, waiting to be awakened by, of course, what would be the crown of, his realizations on earth, as Kardec, as the Spiritist, the spirit Hippolyte Leon Denis Rivail was more than prepared to assume and to do what he had to do. And so all the seeds, all the moral compass he had, even when, in the movie that I know it's a movie, but the way it depicts and through the biographies and etc. from Kardec, how much he was concerned by the education, by equality, and everything that he was engaged in terms of righteousness. So it's not only about us advocating a spiritual, let's say, a spiritual philosophy, a spiritual doctrine. Is us living that on our day-to-day basis. And I think I'm sure Kardec was a spiritist even before he was in contact with spiritism or anything spiritual on his life, his incarnate life, as Hippolyte Leon Denis Rivail.
Thank you, Jussara. And it's interesting that you bring this, right? Because we sometimes tend to or try to apply the Spiritist teachings in our lives, and we sometimes become discouraged because we place the bar very high, right? And sometimes we get frustrated, not only within ourselves, which should be applied to ourselves, but with other people as well. And we forget that we are this millenary spirit that perhaps we're not Kardec yet, but still have qualities. We still have good things within us that we can do and utilize to make this life very fruitful, and thereafter a mission, as you mentioned, right? As you brought to us here, this reminder that that it should not have been disclosed because there was no results yet when he was talking and he was having this debate with his mentor about the whole thing. So very enlightening, very helpful, all these teachings that you brought to us. And it's an encouragement to all of us to continue in this path, whatever may be, as a father, as a mother, as a son, daughter. We have our paths that we are uh, uh, let's say walking and sometimes running because it's so busy, it's so crazy nowadays. But I'm really glad to have you here today and have this discussion, and celebrating this amazing anniversary here of Kardak. So thank you for that. I would like to give you a couple minutes for your final thoughts, and ask you to say the final prayer as well.
Oh, I'm just so grateful to be here with all of you for this opportunity to be able to talk about Kardec that I respect and love so much. And I hope to be with you again soon. And for the final prayer, if you allow me, I would really like to read again the prayer of Kardec, and so that we can end with his prayer that it says so much to all of us and represents so much to all of us, but it is his words, his accomplishment, and his guidance to all of us. So, O Lord, if you deign to set your eyes on me for the fulfillment of your designs, may your will be done. My life is in your hands. As your servant, I am at your disposal. I acknowledge my weakness before such a great endeavor. My goodwill will not fail, but perhaps my strength will give out. Supplement my deficiencies. Give me the physical and mental strength I will need. Sustain me in the difficult moments, and with your aid and the help of your heavenly messengers, I will use every effort to comply with your designs. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone, and until next time, thank you.